The preseason is coming to an end, which means it's time to start seeing some real action from our favorite NFL teams. And here with me to talk about predictions for the NFC North, Marshall Harris from CBS Chicago. It's great to see you, Marshall. I wanted to ask you right away, have we learned anything from the Bears this preseason?
I think we've learned that it's important to have a good offensive line because that's where things start and end with most football teams, and specifically one where the Bears don't necessarily have a lot of questions answered there. When you have to go out and sign a 39-year-old to play tackle and Jason Peters, it tells me that you might need a little bit more depth and you might need to wish people are a little healthier than maybe what they are. And I think that's their biggest thing, coming in outside of the not so big elephant in the room. It's just kind of there, the entire quarterback situation with Andy Dalton being the week one starter, but everyone knowing at some point Justin Fields is going to take over under center.
All right, Marshall, this is the big question. I don't know if it's on everyone's mind, but it's certainly on our mind and on this league's mind as we start this season. NFC North, it's a fun division. You got the Bears, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings. Who do you think out of those four teams is going to come out on top of this division at the end of the year?
It's funny because you had asked me a month ago. I was like, oh, that depends. Who's the quarterback in Green Bay? But we now know who the quarterback in Green Bay is. So I've got to give it up to the reigning MVP and Aaron Rodgers and say the Pack, it's their division to lose. And I just don't see him. He's got so much to prove right now. He's got one of the biggest chips on his shoulder for a guy who's an actual MVP. And yet he still seems so angry. You saw his press conference, how he reacted the first time he was able to communicate with the media, how he felt the offseason went. He's got something to prove. And I just feel bad for all the other teams in his way and their defenses and the defensive coordinators specifically.
Are there any other storylines that you are watching from the remaining three teams?
I think the biggest thing for me is at every team you look at this division specifically, it comes down to quarterback play. And really it also comes down to just health, whether that's COVID or whether that's injuries and such anyway, with that extra game and now having a 17-game schedule. And those two ideas kind of intertwine when you look into the quarterback room in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, who, as we know, is unvaccinated. It's a matter of, can that man stay healthy and stay off the COVID list, per se, for the entirety of a full season? I don't know the answer to that, but that's definitely what I have my eye on. You've got some other issues at quarterback. We obviously know what's going on in Chicago right now, as we just talked about with Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins, which I don't know if it's good or bad. It depends on your perspective. Half glass full, half glass empty. But then also Jared Goff, a number one pick, now quarterbacking in Detroit. I'm interested to see what he has. The man has had some turnover issues for the last couple of seasons now. So you take one number one overall pick and Matthew Stafford, send him out, and get another one in Jared Goff. I think Matthew Stafford's better than Jared Goff, so I don't know what the rebuild in Detroit is going to look like.
Marshall, it really is a mixed bag at the QB position when you break it down like that for the NFC North. Are there any other things that we need to consider before these week one matchups?
I think the biggest thing, at least how I'm looking at things in Chicago, is how the defense bounces back this year. I mean, whether you thought the Bears were good or bad, that's more of a subjective thing from last year. Here's what's objective. They went to the playoffs. They could go to the playoffs again. And a lot of that is going to depend on their defense and whether their superstars can truly be superstars. I want to see what Khalil Mack does. The Raiders are trying to get him back, right? But the Bears like, no, we're going to hold on to this guy because we gave up a lot to get him. And we're trying to do something now. I think they're trying to do something now. Again, I can't tell with the whole Andy Dalton and Justin Fields thing, but we're going to find out together as we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya and figure out what the NFL season holds in 2021. But really, the defense for the Bears and whether or not their superstars can be superstars is what I really have an eye on right now.
All right. Thanks so much for joining me today, Marshall, and breaking all this down. Always great to see you.
Katie, it's always a pleasure. Anytime you want to welcome me back, I'll pop right on.
All right. You can find even more division breakdowns linked in our online article. I'm Katie Johnston for CBS Local Sports.